I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Shalom. Anybody there? Hello, hello. My computer is slow sometimes. Can you see me, guys? Yeah. Hi, Johan. How are you doing? Vince, shalom, shalom. Excellent. Some people up. Any more? Any more people around? Hi, Jana. Back again. Going to be able to study again today. Alison, Boker Tov, Alison. Hi, Donald from Pennsylvania. Welcome back. Shalom, Vince. Welcome back. And Marielle. Shalom, darling. How you doing? So good to see you guys. We got 4 more minutes. DC, Maria, Shalom, Boker Tov. And Elizabeth from Virginia, Shalom, Shalom. So guys, you will need the resources, like always. Please make sure that you got the resources ready to be used. Shalom, Gary from England, if I'm not mistaken. How are you, Gary? How are you doing? Excellent. Okay, 3 more minutes to go, and then we're going to start. Make sure that you have your resources with you. These resources are called the Promised Land. iPad. Shalom, shalom. So good to see you guys from all the different tours. Excellent. So, new day, new time. How you doing, guys? All good? Ron from Venice, Florida, Venice in Florida. Hi, Emma. Hello, darling. I think you're from the Philippines, right, Emma? And Elizabeth Holden. Can't remember where you're from, Elizabeth. Probably the United States, I would imagine. Yeah, the Philippines. Emma, you're from the Philippines. Lisa, shalom, back again. Manila, Philippines. Welcome, welcome. That's awesome. So many people. Any Australians anywhere? Oh yeah, Marielle was the one that I saw. Excellent. And Elizabeth Holden from Scotland. Excellent. So many people, huh? Do let me know if the how do you say, it's not flicking or anything like that. It looks like it's flicking on my screen. Louis, hello, my darling. Trying to have a fresh looking. Not always manage at this age, Yeah. 6:55 p.m. in the Philippines. Oh. Shalom, Diana. How you doing, darling? Excellent. Okay, 1 more minute. Video looks fine in America. Okay. That's good. That's good. Mine is flicking. Yeah. Okay. Koshishi, back again. Shalom, shalom, darling. And Evelyn. from the Philippines as well. Awesome. Shalom from Puerto Princesa, the Philippines. There's a lot of Spanish words in the Philippines. Sherry Harding Cook. Shalom from Michigan. Excellent. What time is in Michigan? Awesome. Hello, Sonia from Alpaca Farm. Oh, yes. I was in the alpaca farms. That was so awesome. Okay, Donald, I'm glad you're saying there's no problem with the audio or the video. Maria is watching from Hong Kong. Shalom, Hong Kong. And Karen is from America. And Ali, shalom. It's from Florida. And another lady, Crispy from Mississippi. No, the Philippines, sorry. And Sherry, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. in the United States. Good morning from Canada, Diana. Shalom, darling, shalom. Anna from North Carolina. Goldie, shalom, Goldie. How you doing? Awesome to see you all. The group is saying hi to each other. Heather, 12 noon in the UK. Diana from Bus One. Oh my goodness, so many people from around the globe. Huh? Amazing. Anyway, okay, guys, so we're going to start. And I would like you to go to the resources. Let's pray a little bit. And good day from Melbourne, my dear. Okay, so let's pray. Okay, and welcome the Lord in all of this, so that He might be glorifying everything we do. Okay. So, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, אלוהי יעקב, אנו מודים לך אבא שאתה איתנו, שאתה מברך אותנו. אני מבקשת בשם ישוע קודשך, שאתה תיתן לנו את רוח קודשך, שתברך את כולם שפה איתנו. תראה להם כמה מאומן אתה, מה שאתה נותן לנו. תודה אבא, בשם ישוע קודשך. Amen, amen. Okay, so we're going to continue to look at the Abrahamic covenant. I prepared lots of material. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through it all just in an hour, but nevertheless, we are going to do as much as we can. Okay, so if you would like to go to the resources then. And I did ask you to look at Genesis 17. I don't know if you managed to do it, but come with me to the book of Genesis. Okay, book of Genesis 17. Genesis 17. We're going to look at more of the covenant that God promised to Abraham. And it's just pretty amazing, mind-blowing, really, what God have done. And please make sure that you have the resources on the side, either printed or available for you so that you can get to it really quickly. So we're going to start reading from the beginning of the book of Genesis 17, verse 1, okay? And it says, when Abram was 90 years old. Look at this, guys. If you think that because you're 90 or you're 80 or whatever, God have done it, you know, then you're very wrong. Then this is the end of your life and that you don't do very much or whatever, you know. If you really are in the work that God has for you. Whether you're 80 or you're 90, you're still very much active. And look at this. God is actually giving promises to Abram when he is 80 years old. Okay, 90 years old. All right. Now, when Abram was 90 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be blameless. Wow. I wonder what exactly God means by blameless. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Be blameless. Yeah. Anyway. And then he says, I am Almighty God, walk before me and be blameless, and I will make a covenant between me and you and will multiply you exceedingly. Okay, again, remember, he didn't have any descendants at this time. Then Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but Abraham, which means the father of many nations. For I have made you a father of many nations. There we are. And I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, okay? And kings shall come from you, many kings, and I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in the generations for an everlasting covenant. So here is God actually promising Abraham that all his descendants are going to be blessed. All of them. Not just the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yeah? He have a bigger plan than just, of course, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob have the blessing as, the main blessing, really. From them came the prophets, from them came Yeshua, yeah? But nevertheless, God was considering the other sons of Abraham as well, and he blessed them as well. And we're going to have a look at it in a minute, okay? And he says that he is making a covenant with all of the descendants of Abraham. And he says to be God to you and your descendants after you. Okay? And also I give to you and your descendants after you the land in which you are the stranger. Okay? Anyway, so we'll look at that later on. But I would like you to come to the resources. Okay, come to the resources, come to the genealogy. I put the genealogy there again. And I want you to take note. First of all, Abraham, you have Sarah, that Isaac comes from, and that we already talked about it last time, that from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the descendants of Israel come, and they received as an inheritance the promised land, okay, which is from the river Euphrates to the brook of Egypt. Remember, we were talking about that last week. And then we have the Egyptian slave Agar, and God is saying you're going to have a descendancy coming from Agar, and God actually promised Abraham also in Genesis 17 that out of Ishmael he will have 12 sons. And look at the genealogy. You can see Abraham, Agar, and Ishmael, and count how many descendants does Ishmael have. Okay? 12 sons. God said, I'm going to make them princes. Okay? And I put on the website all of the descendants of Ishmael and which tribes they come from. Okay? Most of the Ishmaelites were actually nomadic people in Arabia, but there are also Ishmaelites that were princes, they were kings, some of them even of the territory of Edom, okay? Now we know that of a daughter of Ishmael who married the king of Edom, okay? And Edom, the Edomites, were actually descendants from Esau. Isn't that amazing? Yeah? So actually we're family members, if you like, and very many princes and kings actually came from Ishmael. So please, when you have time, okay, have a look at the descendants of Ishmael. Okay, so part of the Arabian people actually comes from Ishmael, but also you have that Keturah, that is the second wife of Abram. Keturah have many children, and these children also, the sons of Keturah, are actually also people that in the Arab world. So for example, part of the Arab world, they are descendants of Abraham, okay? So if you like to go to the sons of Keturah in the resources, let me get to that, okay? Sons of Keturah, and you can see, for example, Simran and Jokshan and Dedan and Medan and Midian, Isbak and Shua, all of these sons of Keturah, all of them actually have their descendants in the Middle East. So when we say that the Arab people actually come originally from Ishmael, that is actually partly true, but not all of them. Some of them are also part of the sons of Keturah. So for example, the son Simran, okay? He was in a Saudi Arabian town of Sabran between Mecca and Medina, okay? This is Saudi Arabia. Jokshan became the father of Sheba, which is Ethiopia, yeah? And Dedan, the city-state in northern Western Arabia. Medan, actually, the descendants are in Iran, yeah? Midian, these are the Midianite people that are mentioned in the Bible several times. Ishbak, his descendants may be of the people identified as the cuneiform inscription for a people known as Jasbuku, okay, and so on. So you can see that the Arabian people actually are descendants both from Agar and from Keturah. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And of course, God was all of them. He loved them, okay, blessed them. He knew that Abraham was concerned when Sarah said, when Isaac was born, and Sarah said, because Ishmael was not happy that Sarah actually had a son. He was mocking the child, mocking Sarah and everything else. And Sarah said to Abraham, please kick out that woman and her son from here. And Abraham was actually concerned that God was asking him, that Sarah was asking him to kick out his son. Okay, he didn't want to do that. And God said, well, listen to your wife, do what your wife said. From that moment on, Abraham actually let his children apart from Isaac to live and to spread out in the whole of the Middle East, not just in to stay with Isaac. He wanted them to spread out. He didn't want them afterwards to have a problem with Isaac. And therefore, you can actually see this, yeah? And Josephus, the historian, tell us that Abraham actually did it on purpose, that he spread out his children so that they will not cause a problem to Isaac later on. Isn't that amazing? Yeah? So you can actually see also the fulfillment of the covenant that God is making with Abraham before your eyes. Yeah, pretty amazing, pretty amazing. You know, when God says something, when it comes out of his mouth, he will do it. He purpose himself to do it. Okay. There's no doubt about it, okay? And then he says that he's going to give the land of Canaan to his descendants. Please go back to the resources, and we look at what God actually promised to Sarah, okay? Just a second, where is it? Okay, 1 second. So we got the sons of Keturah, and we got the sons of, so in Genesis chapter 17, Genesis chapter 17, verse 7, okay, and it says, God said to Abraham, and I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generation for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and your descendants after you. Also, I give to you and your descendants after you the land in which you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession. I will be the God, and I will be the God, okay? So to whom exactly does God give the land of Canaan? Is to descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we mentioned this last time that we were together, but let's read it again. This is in Psalm 105, verses 8 to 11. Psalm 105, verse 8 to 11. And God said like this, the psalmist say like this: He remembered his covenant forever, the words which he commanded for 1,000 generations, the covenant which he made with Abraham and his oath to Isaac. So that means that the land of Canaan actually comes through Isaac, and confirmed it to Jacob for a statute, and to Israel. That means that the descendants of Jacob, Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, as an everlasting covenant, saying, to you I will give the land of Canaan as the allotment of the inheritance. His house, born in the house, brought with money, and foreigner was circumcised with him. So as part of this covenant that God is making with the descendants of Israel, he's saying, I will give you this land, but what you need to do to actually make this land yours is to circumcise, okay? And I want you to continue, roll down the resources, okay? And you will see the VMRs again. You can see from where to where God actually wanted the promised land to be, and that is from the river Euphrates to the brook of Egypt. Remember, we were talking about that last time, and the brook of Egypt is actually south of Gaza. Okay, so if you look at the map of the promised land, you can actually see exactly where that is. Okay, and we talked about that a little bit yesterday, but we're going to continue a bit more today. So can you see from the river Euphrates to the brook of Egypt? What does the promised land encompass? What exactly is, if we were to put it side by side with the map of today, so you will have part of Syria, you will have Lebanon, you will have what is today Israel, also Jordan to the south of Gaza. Okay, so all that is the promised land. Okay, when did Israel actually have all that promised land? And I would like you to keep going down. Okay, you have the 12 tribes of Israel, the Israelites coming to the land between the 13th century, the end of the 13th century, the beginning of the 12th century BC, okay? And you can see that the tribes of Israel spread out in the promised land. Now you can also see that not all of the territories that God actually said to Israel was going to be theirs, it was in their hands, yeah, just a part of it. And the reason being is that the people of Israel were not very numerous at the time, and therefore other nations actually were there, okay? The Philistines, for example, who were the enemies of Israel, the Philistines were technologically more advanced than Israel. And therefore, because we're technologically more advanced than Israel, Israel could not defeat them. Okay, so you can actually see them there on the coastal plain next to the Mediterranean Sea, south of Dan, okay, the green area there. Okay, so when did Israel actually had most of the land that God promised them? Is during the time of the kingdom of David and Solomon. The next map down in the resources, and you can see how far the kingdom of David and Solomon actually was. And it was part of Lebanon, it was Syria, it was to the south of Gaza, yeah? So all the areas that God promised Israel to have, and most of it was actually in the hands of David and Solomon. After David and Solomon, they had the kingdom actually splits, okay, into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. Okay, remember that Solomon messed up. He was involved in idolatry. God was not very happy with it, and he divided the kingdom. Okay, and then Israel goes into captivity. Okay, now the next map that you can see that God is actually kicking out the Israelites out of the land of Israel, again, because of idolatry, because of ignorance. And you can see that from 722 to 733 BC, the Assyrian kings took Israel out. And then in 586 BC, it was the Nabucodonosor from Babylon that took Judah away, okay, the kingdom of Judah away. So you have this, and when the 10 tribes of Israel actually live at this time, this is where the phrase the 10 lost tribe of Israel comes about. Okay, now what happens is that the 10 tribes of Israel is not a phrase that is actually in the Bible, as far as I can understand, okay? Many of these people ran away from Assyria and went to Judah, okay, at this time, 722, 733 BC. So all of the tribes of Israel, actually many people from different tribes of Israel, came running to Judah at this time. And it wasn't until 586 BC that Nabucodonosor actually gets Judah out to Babylon. And then the next map down is when Judah is allowed to return to the promised land. And because it's Judah that returns to the promised land, these people start to be called Jews. Now you need to say, wow, okay? They start to be called Jews, okay? So here it is in the map, okay? So really under the Persian government, these are the returnees of Babylon under the Persian Empire. I forgot to put the date there, 538 BC, are the ones that actually returned, and they only had Judea. That was the only thing that they had under Ezra and Nehemiah, okay? And this is actually under the Persian Empire. But nevertheless, this is the only thing they had, okay? The only time afterwards that Israel had most of the land that God promised them, and if you like to come down again to the Hasmonean map, you will see that the Hasmoneans, which are post-Old Testament, I would say 167 to 63 BC, the Hasmoneans for about 100 years, more or less, had most of the promised land, okay? But not all of it, of course, all right? And then, so really, when did Israel have most of it? Under David and Solomon. I want you to see also the map that comes next. And this is modern day Israel. And it is actually a fraction of what the promised land was at the time of David and Solomon. Okay, now I want to talk about now the sign of this covenant, which is the circumcision. All right, guys. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 17. So come with me to Genesis chapter, Genesis chapter 17, verse 9. Genesis chapter 17, verse 9. And I want to show you this covenant, okay? So here is God saying, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to give you the land. And you can actually see that that actually happens, okay? And God determined who was going to get what. The other children of Abraham actually spread out to the Arabian countries, okay? But what is the sign of this covenant? Remember that when God had the Noahide covenant, he always had a sign, yeah? What was the sign of the covenant of Noahide covenant? Yeah, the rainbow, okay? What is the sign of this particular covenant is the circumcision, okay? And I want you to read this, okay? And you can see in verse 9, Genesis 17, verse 9. And God said to Abram, as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, through their generation. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised. And what's fascinating about this is not just the Jewish people that are getting circumcised, it's also the Arab people are getting circumcised as well. And this is, part of Islam, but it's not in the Quran. It's actually in the Hadith, which is traditions and regulations of the Muslim community. Okay? So, and they say they need to circumcise their children. So as you can see, that the covenant of circumcision is not just for the Jewish people, it's also for the Arab nations. Isn't that interesting? Okay, because they are descendants of Abraham, many of them, they're descendants of Abraham. Okay, verse 11, and you shall circumcise in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old, you shall be circumcised, every male child in your generation. He who is born in your house, brought with money for any foreigner who is not your descendant. So anybody that is actually in the household of Abraham needed to be circumcised. Who is born in your house, and he who is brought with your money must be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh. And listen to this, guys, for an everlasting covenant. How long will this covenant going to be? Totally everlasting. Can you see this? Yeah? Now, we have an issue here. Because in the New Testament, it says that circumcision is nothing. What's important is the circumcision of the heart. So what's going on here? And remember that this is actually a forum, okay? You need to think about this. I want you to write in the messages, I want you to write what is going on here. Is this an everlasting covenant, or is it a covenant that is not relevant anymore? Okay? Because, Paul said circumcision is nothing, uncircumcised is nothing. So what is going on? Okay, so I want you to write it down. Okay, and let me see what you think about this. What's going on? If this is saying that it's an everlasting covenant, then what's going on here? Anybody? People thinking. What is going on? Any ideas? Everlasting for the Jewish people, but not for the Gentiles. Very good. Absolutely true. Okay? Very good. It says everlasting. When God says everlasting, it means everlasting. Absolutely. I agree with you. Okay? I still practice to today. Absolutely. Everlasting. Okay, so very good, guys. Now, it is an everlasting covenant, but it's specifically to the descendants of Abraham, not to the Gentile nations. Now, what was happening here is this, that the Gentile world believed that they have to circumcise themselves to attain righteousness. They believed that they had to do it, okay? But look at this, there are two different things, two ramifications here. Those are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or descendants of the Arab nations that are also descendants of Abraham, and the Gentile world that doesn't need the circumcision. Can you see this? Yeah? What's happening is the people in the Gentile world, some Jewish people were saying to the Gentiles, you need to circumcise yourself to be part of the community, part of the faith. But Paul says, no, Abraham actually attained righteousness before he actually was circumcised. What's important is the circumcision of the heart, not the circumcision of the flesh, yeah? So Paul is actually dissuading the Gentile community, guys, that's not for you, yeah? That is a covenant that was made to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Can you see this? Yeah? And it is specifically a covenant for the land, of the circumcision of the land. Yeah, I hear from Jing that the Filipinos are practicing circumcision to male children. Probably they are descendants from Abraham. That's where it's coming from. Okay, so this is fascinating, isn't it? Fascinating. You can actually see the difference between what God is actually saying to the descendants of Abraham and the rest of the world, okay? It doesn't mean that God doesn't care for the rest of the world. Of course he does. Yeshua came to die for us and resurrect for us, so that we're all saved, where we are of the circumcision or not of the circumcision. Now, when the New Testament is actually referring to the people of the circumcision, it's actually referring to the Jewish people, yeah? Even though those of the circumcision is actually much larger than just of the Jewish people. You understand? Okay? Any questions? Any questions? I know if you have any questions, okay? Now, verse 17, it says, God is actually saying to Abraham, he who is born in your house and he who is brought with your money must be circumcised, okay? And my covenant shall be with your flesh for an everlasting covenant. Verse 14, and the uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, the person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. So the covenant, this covenant that God makes with Abraham, is conditional. If your children actually circumcise themselves, then that is the covenant to do with the land. That will actually bring you the promises of the land. Now, Michelle is actually writing here. It says, I was in Kenya. They did circumcise to reduce the spread of AIDS. Okay. Now, it's very well known that circumcision actually prevents all of many venereal diseases, to spread by actually doing the circumcision. It's actually a very healthy thing to do. Jewish women have less venereal diseases because of the circumcision, okay? And it is actually very, very good for you, okay? It is, I don't want to talk about very much on the side, but nevertheless, you know, when men that are not circumcised, they come to old age, it can actually get infected if they're not circumcised, very much. because it's not cleaned properly or whatever. Yeah, circumcision actually prevents many venereal diseases. Okay, so the circumcision then was given as a covenant to the Jewish people, to the Arab people, to the descendants of Abraham. Okay, so both the Arab people and the Jewish people are called Semites. Semites. Okay, this is the race, Semites. Yeah, we're all connected here in the Middle East. This is where we come from. Yeah, Abraham was from Ur of the Chaldeans, which is actually south of Babylon. Yeah, so we're all connected. We're all Semites. Now there is a phrase that is called anti-Semites that was actually coined in the 18th century, and that phrase actually only have to do with the hatred against Jews. Okay, that's what it means, hatred against Jews. However, the Semites are both the Jews and the Arabs. Is that clear? Yeah. Any questions? Any questions? Anybody? Okay, so you can actually see that Paul is actually saying to the people, you don't have to circumcise yourself. But remember, there was one of the disciples of Paul, I think if I'm not mistaken, is Philip, who I might be mistaken. I'm not sure what his name was, but nevertheless, his mother was Jewish and therefore considered to be Jewish. And before these two, Paul and his disciple, came to Jerusalem, he actually circumcised Philip, even though he was saying to the Gentile world, you don't have to circumcise yourself, to attain righteousness or whatever, yeah, but when he was actually dealing with the Jewish people, he followed the Mosaic law. Paul followed the Mosaic law, and he would circumcise the disciple that came with him to Jerusalem. Why he would do that? Why he would do that? And let me tell you why he would do that. Because when Paul brings the gospel, he adjusts himself to the different groups of people. What he's saying like this, it says, to the Gentiles as a Gentile, so that you might save some. To the Jews as a Jew, so that you might save some. Yeah, the Jewish people are a peculiar people. They are the people of the circumcision, and they're more likely to listen to a person that is being circumcised, part of the people of God, if you like, part of the Jewish nation. Oh, that was Timothy. Thank you, Olean. That was Timothy that was circumcised. Okay. And then Paul actually comes to the church in Jerusalem in the first century, and James, who was the leader of the church in Jerusalem, he says to Paul, he was actually bragging about this, said to Paul, look at the myriads of Jews that have come to faith. They all believe in Christ, and they are zealous for the law. Okay? So the Jewish community in the first century Jerusalem was law-abiding community that followed the Mosaic law, and they also believed in Christ. But it was that community that made a decision regarding the Gentile world, so that the Gentile world did not have to follow all the rules and regulations of the Mosaic law. They decided that the Gentile world needed to keep themselves from four things, okay? During that time, you should know as well that during that time, 1st century AD, many Gentiles used to go to the synagogue. They will hear the word read to them in the synagogue. Many of them came to know the God of Israel in the synagogue. One of them was Cornelius. Cornelius probably attended the synagogue and knew about the God of Israel, but he didn't convert to Judaism, okay? He actually knew about the God of Israel and followed the God of Israel as a Gentile, okay? So you have these groups of people in the 1st century church, both Jews and Gentiles. And during the 1st century, the church decided, and this you actually can read this in the Council of Jerusalem, in the book of Acts from chapter 15 to 21, where they make a decision regarding the Gentile community. What do they say? Should we burden the Gentile community with the Mosaic law? Or should we not do that to them? Some of the Pharisees that were believers in Christ and very much, they wanted to follow the Mosaic law. They said, yes, we have to make the Jews follow the Mosaic law. That is a must, okay? And then the rest of the community went against it. They said, no, the Gentiles do not have to follow the Mosaic law. The Gentiles need to keep themselves from four things. Number one that they had to keep themselves from is from sexual immorality. Now, how do you know what sexual immorality is if you don't go and look in the Mosaic law? Second thing, that you will not eat animals that died by themselves. So that you don't eat the diseases that they died with. Isn't that interesting? Third law, that you will not eat blood. Why can you not eat blood? Because the life of the animal is in the blood. Fourth thing, that you will not eat things that have been meat that's been sacrificed to idols. Because very much was the practice in those days to sacrifice animals to idols. And of course, the God of Israel didn't want them to do that, so there, you can actually see two ramifications. One, the Jewish believers in Christ who follow the law, who follow the circumcision, who were very, very proud of actually following the Mosaic law. And remember that we've been doing this forever. And also you have the other ramification, the Gentile world, that according to the decision of the 1st century church in the book of Acts, they did not have to follow the Mosaic law, okay? Now, there is this decision made, but that doesn't mean that the Gentiles who choose to follow the Mosaic law cannot do so. Because there are many blessings for those that do follow the Mosaic law. There is my son, Jonathan, at the back. Jonathan, say hi. People can see you. Okay, so this is it, okay? So we're going to continue with the covenants. We're going to continue with actually what God is saying regarding this, regarding the Gentiles and what to keep of the Mosaic law, what not to keep of the Mosaic law, and so on, because it's a little bit more complex than what we have seen. Ali is saying, good morning, Jonathan. Good morning. Okay, so any questions, anybody? Any questions? Okay, so the Jewish people and Gentile Christians, okay, the two ramifications, they are actually eating from the same tree. We have different traditions, we have different way of thinking in many ways, but we all belong to Yeshua. Yeah, two branches, but we all belong to Yeshua. Amen. Any questions? Managed to do in 55 minutes. That's pretty good. We worship in spirit and in truth, women of the well. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. Very good. Any questions, anybody? Okay, Janet, Sonia, thank you very much. Very interesting. Good morning, Jonathan, said Jana. My baby. Amen, amen. This is how I understand it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I think there are two branches, two different things, okay? Sonia, do you still follow the Mosaic law? Absolutely. Yes, yes, we do. This is a very Jewish thing to do. Part of our tradition. We live with it. We spend our lives. Israel is actually run by the Mosaic law. It's still even to today. Yeah, very much part of our lives. When can you do your tours again? Good question. Whenever everything opens up, I'll be able to do the tours again. Okay, so we're going to continue with the covenants tomorrow. Next lesson. Now we're having the next one. Let's have a look. Thursday. In a minute. So we are the 27th today. So next Thursday is going to be the 30th of April. That's going to be next lesson, and we are going to look at the Mosaic Covenant, okay? And there are sections of the Mosaic Covenant that we do not do it anymore, and the sections of the Mosaic Covenant that we are still practicing, even the Gentiles. And we're going to talk about that, okay? 30th of April, same time on Thursday, we're going to look at that. Vince says, you have introduced me to the difference between the Messianic believers and Gentile believers. Absolutely. Very good, yeah? So Messianic believers, they are mostly traditional. I mean, what happens is that the Mosaic law have passed to be the traditions of Israel, the traditions of the Jewish people. That's what it is, yeah? Is the covenant and the law the same thing? Very good question. So what we actually, when we talk about the Mosaic covenant, we're looking at the 5 books of Moses, looking at Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, okay? So these are the 5 books of Moses. And when we talk about the Mosaic law, we're looking at, even though it's not that, not all of it, yeah, but we're looking at the 5 books of Moses. And definitely the covenant of the circumcision starts in the book of Genesis, yeah? Okay, excellent. Okay, I'm glad you like it, guys. Pretty amazing. Was it okay, the transmission? My screen is flicking all the time. Tradition, 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 tradition. Yeah. Very much so. Absolutely. Yeah. Any more questions? Any more questions? Okay. So God bless you guys. Let's see each other next lesson. Thursday, the 3rd of April. I will make some resources again and God willing, you'll be able to follow me. Excellent. God bless you, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye. God bless. Bye-bye. Yeah, audio cuts out a bit, but better than on Thursday. Okay. It's flicking all the time in my screen, so probably that's what it is. I don't know. Okay. God bless, guys. God bless. Shalom, shalom.